In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. I am your host, Charles King. There are people who don't just build businesses, they build bridges. They don't just create opportunities, they create access. And they don't just talk about community, they invest in it, nurture it, and lift it with intention. Tonight, we welcome a woman who embodies all of that and more. On this episode of American Black and White, we sit down with a multi-passionate entrepreneur, strategist, philanthropist, and connector, someone who has made it her mission to help others grow, thrive, and succeed. Her work spans entrepreneurship, real estate, apparel nonprofit leadership, and community empowerment. But what truly defines her as her heart for people and her belief that collaboration is the currency of progress. She is a woman shaped by legacy, by the courage of Harriet Tubman, the strength of her grandmother Dolly, and the wisdom of her mother. She stands on the shoulders of giants and she honors them through her work, her leadership, and her commitment to building something bigger than herself. Tonight, we welcome Shannon Phoenix, a force, a visionary, and a light in every room she enters. Let's get into her story. Welcome to the show, young lady. Hello? I don't hear you. Check your settings on your computer and check the sound.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes, I hear you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. So again, I welcome you to the show, and I thank you so much, for being here. Is there anything you'd like to say to our audience before we get into the show?
Thank you for having me. First, I appreciate the platform. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Everything was working fine. However, that is technology, but with life, you have to go with the flow. So that's what we're going to do here today.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you so much. And what I'd like to do first is, I'd like to give our audience a chance to get to know more of you, Shannon Phoenix, before you became the person that you are today. So can you tell us, when you think about your childhood, what's the first memory that shaped who you are today?
Okay. Um, so it sounds like it's breaking up a bit, and unfortunately I did not hear the question.
Okay. So when you think about your childhood, what's the first memory that shaped who you are today?
I would have to say morals. Definitely morals. So I was raised in a two-parent household, and I want to make sure that that is known because I heard in the introduction you said the wisdom of my mother, so it's actually the wisdom of my mother and my father, um, because I think that's important, especially in the Black community. A two-parent household is definitely, I wouldn't be who I am today if it was not for my mother and my father. So I think morals. I was taught, I was right and wrong. I was taught right to treat people as I want to be treated. And we also lived very closely to my grandmother Dolly that you spoke of earlier. My grandmother actually stayed next door to us, so along with the rearing of my mother and father, my grandmother was also there to help in that process as well.
All right. So yeah, just what that, in the context of that, it was just saying that those were the people that you mentioned for your Black history influence, which is why I said your grandmother and your mother. So
Yes, I definitely wanted to make sure I shed light on my father as well.
so what values did your family instill in you that still guide your leadership?
I would say just that the morals and the values. Definitely treating people as I would want to be treated. That is how I walk. That's how I walk, and I live through life every day, making sure that I am still carrying at 46 years old, still carrying out those morals that I was given as a child. Still making sure that when I treat people, whether it's personally or in business, that I treat people according to how I would want to be treated. Absolutely.
There's a couple of comments here. I'm sure that these are probably friends and family of yours. That was the first one here. She's giving you the fire. And here's one here, Doodle Daddle saying hi.
Hi, I don't
Um,
know who that is. Hi, Doodle Daddle.
um, Wait a minute, see. Some of these folk here, we've got a lot of, what do you want to call them? We got some hecklers here.
Okay, that's
Then,
okay.
so, yeah, I refuse to put that on the screen. There's, okay, there's some person saying that they could hear us. And just a lot of comments that popped up in here already. Um, this person says Bible, Elah, Quran, Allah. Uh, Comes from, I don't know who that is either, but welcome to the show. There's another one here that's saying hi to you.
Hello.
And here is Okay. Okay. I was talking about the volume, and this is another person saying that they didn't hear us either. So we got that fixed. When did you first realize you had a heart for people and connection?
I would have to say, just being transparent, I think that probably started. So just going back a little bit, I have a degree in computer networking. Well, I always felt that I was very technically savvy. Um, I think as I started to grow out throughout my career and really still, tapping into my education as I pursue my bachelor and also my master's degree, I really started towards human resources. Um, and I think during that time, that's when I started having more of a heart for people because human resources absolutely is in the people business. So I think I always instilled in me, but as I, pursue my career and just being a life learner, I really was able to tap into that.
And so, as you mentioned, with the human resources part, and with your caring for people, can you tell us, with the morals that were instilled in you, how did that play as you got into human resources and connecting more and more with people?
I would definitely have to say, really understanding and listening to people. Most of the time, with people, there may be a misunderstanding, but if you stop and listen for a bit, you will really be able to. Most of the time, you'll be able to something that they say will resonate with you. Just listening, being able to listen and hear what the other person is saying. So I did a lot of employee relations investigations in my time in my human resources career, and you would find, in those investigations, you would find, talking to people and really understanding what the issue was. You really got to hear the other person and really understand, some of the background or the quote unquote issue, if you will. And most of the time, it was an underlying issue or a problem that no one addressed. Some of the times it went all the way back to childhood, but it was showing up in their career. So I think just being able to be a listening ear for sure.
So, what was young Shannon like? Curious, bold, quiet, observant?
I would say a little bit of all of those. I had two older brothers, so my brothers may be on here now, but my middle brother coined me as Little Big Sister. So I think always a little, obviously bold, probably a bit bossy. I think definitely. I think I was a leader, even though I was the youngest. I think that was definitely instilled in me, but I think that I displayed that I had that aura about myself. And I think that my parents must have seen that because I think they, really supported me on my journey throughout life and letting me know that I am a leader and letting me know that I am definitely exactly who I think I am. So I think very much so confident, bold. I would say definitely a good person. I think I was a bit quiet just because I didn't know, I think as a child, you're still trying to learn and figure out who you are. But I think around family, I was definitely talkative. My grandmother absolutely probably, well, not probably, I know she said this girl is talking my head off. So, so, but I think I was inquisitive for sure, because listening to her journey, her stories, made me want to know more. So I think as she told her stories, it made me more inquisitive and wanting to, and that's probably why I asked so many questions and wanted to just have a better understanding of her, which obviously would help me have a better understanding of myself. So I think very smart. Always was, I think, just very inquisitive, really trying to figure out what and why things work the way they work.
Who was the first person to tell you that you were meant for something bigger?
My grandmother. Yes.
Oh wow. Um,
She would
what's a
always
lesson?
say, my apologies. Um, she would always say that you have a funny head, meaning that, she would say I guess in so many words, the way that my brain worked was interesting. So she would always say, you have a funny head. Like, so she would definitely make sure that I knew that, and to always, you use my brain and make sure that I'm um, using what God gave me.
There's a comment here from DPROCK A513 says, I'm listening.
That's my brother.
Okay.
That's my oldest brother.
Okay. So what's a lesson from your early life that you still carry with you?
I would have to say a lesson from my younger life. Um, it's so many. I would say just, going through life. If I had to have a conversation with my younger self, it would definitely be to be confident. I think as a younger woman, I did not really tap into the confidence that I have now. Um, if I could talk to the younger Shannon, I would definitely tell her that you have everything that you need right at your fingertips. So I would have to say, I mean, just thinking back through all of the numerous stories, I would have to say, be confident.
So, how did your upbringing influence the way you approach business and relationships? And I think the greatness about this question is that people are gonna get to hear, the wonderful things that you're doing because you're definitely, the person that works in the community. How did that?
I think the sound went out a bit. Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of it.
How did your upbringing influence the way you approach business and relationships?
I would have to say, um, just the morals and values. The bottom line is treat people as you would want to be treated. That's, personally and in business. If I, you know, just in business, if I'm, getting ready to complete a project or something for a client, I always put myself in their shoes and try to understand what I would want out of that project and how I would want to be treated, from a business perspective. So, and then just personally, I'm always, I think I'm a person with, I continue to carry out those morals and values. I have long lasting relationships. All of my five close friends, we've been friends since we were 14 and 15 years old. I do have one friend that I'm still friends with, from that we were friends at 9 years old. So I think, that is a testament to who I am as well. Because, you know, if you don't have those morals and values, you'll quickly lose people out of your life. So I definitely think that having those more, those things instilled in me has translated over to my personal and my professional life.
So, what's a challenge you faced growing up that later became a source of strength?
Mhm. I would absolutely say so. I don't think my mother knew. I hope she's listening because I tell her this all the time. So I don't think she knew that So I'm self-diagnosed OCD. Um, I I I always tell my mom jokingly that she should have known that just because the way that I had my Barbies set up and the Barbie house, and I didn't like, when my little cousins, I was the baby, so I always had my own room. My brother shared a room, but um because I was the only girl, and so I think just the way that I organized my room and made sure that certain things were a certain way, it may have appeared as maybe a weakness or a challenge, when I was younger, but it's absolutely a bonus attribute, I would say, especially in business, because it has afforded me, the ability to have, clients that appreciate that. And being able to, they know that, my perfectionist ways will, that I am going to make sure that things are done in a manner that, is appeasing for them as well.
So, when you look back, what moment feels like the turning point in your life?
I would have to say, maybe about the turning point in my life. I think when I really started to understand life is first and foremost, I would have to say, because in life you're gonna experience some highs and some lows. It's gonna be some twists and some turns. And I think the first time that I ever experienced a loss was with my grandmother. So that was eye opening. It was eye opening because I had never experienced that. And then again with my father passed in 2012. And I recall my mother saying, my grandmother always lived right next door to us. So she was like another mother figure to me, my grandmother. But I mean, she was really close, almost like a mother. And I recall my mother saying when she passed, respectfully, she was like, but she wasn't your mother, she was my mother. And while I did not understand that comment, I later really understood that comment when my dad passed away, because that was my actual parent. That was my father. So I think those two, while we deaf, people grieve differently, and it's definitely a hard blow losing someone. You go from talking to them every day, then the next day you can't reach out to them. So I think those were two pivotal moments in my life, where
Where
to really, go tap into self and really try to understand, how to move forward. And then also resort back to those conversations with my grandmother, my father, that pushed me to keep moving forward. So I would definitely have to say those two were pivotal in my life.
So, what does the word legacy mean to you personally?
Personally, it means building something that is tangible and intangible for myself, my family, and my community. Where when I leave this earth, um, my being will still be
Still be
uh, they will still be able to feel my presence. The hard work that I put in will carry on throughout generations. I think, and not even just with my family, like I said, my community. I want to do good work to the point where it has an effect on people that may not even be, related to me. So that's important.
So, you have a beautiful resume. Your resume is one that, is one that stands out, that I think anyone that would see that would know that you're definitely one of these young ladies that are putting in the work to make things happen. And again, I go back to that work that you're doing in the community. I want to transition over to your work in entrepreneurship and your business strategy. Can you tell us what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Actually, I was kind of thrown into entrepreneurship. Um, I was steady trying to climb the corporate ladder, if you will. At the time, I was working for a a major restaurant chain that in Columbus, Ohio, and I was just really trying to climb the corporate ladder. And a friend of mine was actually starting a business, and needed some help in regards to getting structure in place for his business. And I helped out in that area, and then he started remodeling. So at that point, I said, okay, well, maybe I have a business on my hands, but I never was looking to be an entrepreneur, if I have to be honest. It kind of fell in my lap, and I'm so glad, because I believe that we are creators, and we are put here to create, and entrepreneurship allows for me to tap into that.
So, when you got into entrepreneurship, can you tell us how did that transcend over to your work in the community? Were they always mutually exclusive, or how did that work?
Well, actually, so my dad passed in 2012. I think that's when we collectively as a family started getting involved in, we would participate in the National Kidney Walk. And I think that's where the philanthropy started coming into play, if I have to be honest. And then um, that it kind of, I started my business back in 2017. So at that point, I was already, kind of already doing things in the philanthropist space. So it only made sense for me to be able to bring that along, in my businesses as well.
So, um, you're multi-passionate. So, how do you balance your different business interests?
So I think that's a question that I get very often. So remember I talked about the OCD. I'm very much a stickler in regards to my calendar. I like order. I like structure. My family, my daughters, hopefully they are listening. They know that if they want something done with me, then they need to put it on my calendar. So I'm very much a stickler in regards to schedules, and making sure that the calendar for one business is linked to another, so there won't be overlapping, meetings and things of that nature. So I'm definitely a very structured, and I think that helps me, be able to play so many roles, and be multi-passionate.
So, what's the biggest misconception people have about entrepreneurship?
I think they think it's easy. They think that they're gonna jump in, and I hope my middle brother is listening, because we've had these conversations. I think that think that they're gonna jump in. And I say this because I encourage him and tell him that, again, just like with life, there's going to be some highs and some lows. I believe when people go and get the LLC or whatever corporation that they file for, I think the next day they believe that they're going to just get a client and everything's going to be great. No, that's not how it goes. You definitely have to rub some elbows, really get out in the community and let people know that you exist, and really, try to put yourself out there. I have deemed myself as an introvert, to be honest. I'm not a person that has to be in the limelight. I'm really a person that likes to do good work from the background. I can absolutely be behind the curtains and don't have to get the shine. But with entrepreneurship, nobody can speak about your business better than you. So it pushes you to get out of your comfort zone. And for me, while I may be an introvert at heart, I absolutely have to speak up in regards to, my businesses. So I would definitely say that if you're coming into entrepreneurship, know that it's not going to be easy. You have to put your boots on, pull your boots up, and get to work. And that means putting yourself out there and really letting the community know that you are there. And then just be ready. Have resources, tap into the resources available to you to help you during that process, because there is definitely different organizations out there to help you on your entrepreneurship journey.
So tell us about some of those things that you've seen where you're helping your clients when they first become entrepreneurs or they want to incorporate. What are some of the things that you've seen that you see commonly with those approaches?
Um, Typically, so with my business, I see a lot of entrepreneurs like I said, when they start, if they join forces with me, I typically see that their books may be unorganized. They don't understand that they have to keep things a certain way, or the structure within business. You have to make sure that you're recording everything, because the IRS is looking. So and so I think that is definitely a big misconception. They treat it as though it's a hobby versus a true business. So I think when you get into entrepreneurship, you really have to, and that's why I said tapping into those resources, because especially in our community, we weren't really taught. The funny thing, I always say I have an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration, but nobody taught me how to be an entrepreneur. None of the classes taught me how to step in, from a corporate role into entrepreneurship. So I'm self-taught in that area. I had to lean on the resources in the community to teach me how to transition from a corporate mindset to an entrepreneur mindset.
So, how do you help entrepreneurs identify their blind spots? And I know that there are several of those because they don't know about that either.
I would say definitely. So when I do a consultation, and then more so of an analysis when my clients are coming to me, just to kind of understand where they are within their journey. And that helps me to know where to help assist them in their being. Sometimes, I work with it's small to mid-sized companies. So sometimes with the smaller organizations, they think they have things all together, but then again, and it's no fault to them. It's just really understanding, being a business owner. So at that point, I have to, and let me say, the smaller organizations don't have the resources that the larger corporations have. So I think it's for me in my business. So my business is a business solutions company. We provide professional business services. So it's really being a support to them to say, okay, this is how I can help you. But I also am mindful that they don't have the same resources. That means including revenue as well. Um, and I try to give them resources that will help them on their journey that can be, cost effective as well. And I think that's important. For me, that ties back to I think the morals and values, because I would have wanted someone to help me as well. So really trying to understand where they are in their business. And like I said, the free consultation and then also the analysis helps me to do so, and how to move forward with that particular client.
So, what's one business mistake you made that taught you a very powerful lesson?
I would have to say, definitely exactly what I said in regards to not recording everything. I think, again, coming into no one taught me, to how to transition from corporate to becoming a business owner. So really having to work with, there is an organization here in Columbus, Ohio, helped me to understand what I shouldn't be recording and keeping record of, and really working alongside of a tax consultant, a CPA, to help me along in that process as well.
As you mentioned that, and and I think about our communities in general. As we're coming through our communities, entrepreneurship is something that's not taught. Financial literacy is another thing that's not taught. When you think about those things and you come back to where you saying you're a self-taught entrepreneur, where you delve deep to make sure that you could get things right for your business and to serve other people. What is the one lesson, the one thing that you learned in that self-taught process that still reigns prevalent today that you make sure you tell your clients about?
Um, so the books, keeping really close, you know, watching your books very closely and recording everything is definitely one on the top list. I mean, the top three. But I would also say, as you're working alongside of, especially if you're a service organization, provide professional services, definitely making sure that each one teach one, pass along the same information that you were given, pass it along to the next person. I don't think it's okay to, the term is gatekeep now. Definitely that's okay. I think that we, especially in our community, make sure that you reach back and teach someone what you learned. So, and that's what I'm all about in my business.
So, how do you approach building sustainable growth for your clients?
Sustainable growth. So, um, for me, so obviously, so we actually, my business and the name of my business is Assist Business Solutions. So my tagline is, we turn fire into framework. When you think are in the midst of, sometimes business can be chaotic. It can be rewarding, but it can be chaotic as well. And you find yourself in fire at times. So that's where me and my team come into play. So we really try to, like I said, through the analysis, to find out where the business owner is. But we work with our businesses in three sectors. So that's business, foundation, really helping with operations management, back office support, making sure that they have a solid foundation. But then we go to the next stage, which is business elevation. So at that point, while in the first step, I'm sorry, we are helping, from an HR perspective. But that second phase is really the growth solutions, where we're able to now say, okay, so what is your goal? Are you looking to grow? And if so, let's come up with some solutions to get you there. Is it adding, additional staff to be able to move you forward? Or is there adding a new location? So we look at those things, especially from an HR perspective, an HR lens, making sure that you have all of the different players in place to help you along in this growth process. And if you don't have those different players in place, then we do have strategic partners that we can connect you with to ensure that you get to that space. But we also provide business funding options, just in case, our clients can't afford or aren't able to have, traditional bank funding. We provide alternative funding. So those are all to help in that process. And then with the sustainability, we want to make sure, just like with a child, you want to make sure your child has insurance, all the things that they need to protect them. Well, we do the same thing, in the business sustainability phase, where we help our business owners protect what they're created through legal service plans, being able to, give them cost-effective access to attorneys to help them along in that process, whether that means, if they're coming into the business and they need, their business isn't structured correctly, we could definitely, give them access so that they can get it structured correctly. And then also, having contracts and things of that nature reviewed so that they, have the access to an attorney, which can tell them, hey, this is, a good contract, or this is not working. Let's go back to the table and renegotiate. I think having those things in place has definitely allowed for us to be an asset to our clients, for sure.
So, what role does relationship building play in business success?
Oh, that is key for sure. And so that for me, that kind of goes hand in hand with the philanthropy. I would have to say, relationship building. You have to make sure that you're building good relationships. It's like, you want to do business. People want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And the only way that's going to happen is you have to build those good relationships. So for me, I'm always a person. I've learned that I had to get out there and network. And when I started networking, I quickly learned that you again, people want to do business with who they know and who they trust and who they like. So building those relationships were key to my success as I move forward with my businesses.
So, tell us and tell our audience, and what are the things, or what is that one thing that you do when you're out, when you're searching for your clients and you're building your client base? What is that one thing that you do that sells your business as the business that they're going to go with?
Okay. So I would think, first and foremost, I'm always myself. I think, I try to present myself authentically, because I think people they want to know about you. They want to know about the person, Shannon Phoenix, who's some similar to the questions that you're asking. They want to know a little bit about my personal life. So I'm sure to give them a little bit of that, but also really assure them that, I have the credentials to get them to where they need to be. So I share a little bit about myself, my life, and then, I've also shed light on the personal and professional, and how, from a professional lens, we, with our services, can get them to where they need to be. Again, that's just me being able to allow them to, take a peek into my life so that they can get to know me a little bit better. And I think that has afforded me, to have, some long lasting clients, and be able to have, those relationships in place where people say, hey, I know Shannon Phoenix, and I know, she does good business. Let me refer you to her.
So, what's your philosophy on visibility and brand presence?
So you have to put yourself out there. Definitely, if you're not a person, because again, I at heart, I believe I'm an introvert, but entrepreneurship is definitely going to take you out of your comfort zone. So if you're not a person that's used to that, then make sure that you connect with, a business that can help you do that. Like, make sure that you're partnering with, social media or marketing strategist that can help you, put yourself out in a authentic and effective way. So because you have to. We live in a society that wants to see what you're doing. So you definitely have to be able to, put yourself out there. And like I said, if you're struggling with doing so, make sure that you lean on a company that or a person that has that ability to do that in an authentic and effective way.
Tell our audience when they come to you for your services. Tell them what are they going to get from you and why you're the best for them.
I would say they are going to get a company that stands on morals and values. Really, wants to support a business from start to finish. We want to walk alongside you in the different phases of business, and we want to treat your business like it's our baby too, and we want to raise the child up and make sure that they're cultivated and being able to get out here and be a quote unquote good citizen, a good business for those that need the support or the service or the goods and services. So I think they will understand that we are regular people. We are personable. We definitely want to make sure that they know that we have the needs, and if we don't have the means to get them where they need to be, we also have strategic partners that we work alongside with that can help them get to where they need to be.
So, how do you keep entrepreneurs? How do you help entrepreneurs shift from survival mode to strategy mode?
So I think so I would have to say you have to take it one step at a time, because, as I've said a few times, um, this is their baby. So sometimes they want to hold tight to it, and not delegate or not allow for you to help them. So really having that, open, honest conversation to say, so what is your day-to-day operations? What does that look like? And what is, some of the things that what are some of the things that are very, taking up a lot of your time? And how can we help you? What would help you be able to free those things up? And how would that help you grow? So, really trying to break things down in a step by step process to help them understand and see a bigger picture of, okay, so I'm probably wasting too much time trying to do bookkeeping myself, or when I can be, helping the staff, with another project, or really trying to delegate and get this other project out the way. So I think really helping them break things down into sectors allows for us to, then they can see, the smaller picture, and then, see so they can, try to delegate and move forward to the bigger picture.
What's one thing every new entrepreneur should prioritize from day one?
I would say time management. I So what I've seen and with helping, my clients, and then also myself, transitioning from corporate to being a business owner. When you're in corporate, your day is already kind of laid out for you, if you will. You kind of know what tasks to tackle. But as a business owner, you don't really know exactly what you should be doing. It's kind of like you're just trying things out and seeing how it, it flows. But I would say, from a time management standpoint, really setting and, breaking down the task of what you have in front of you and time blocks, because that's going to ensure that you are focused on you're given a little bit of time to each task. So I would definitely say time management. I see so many entrepreneurs, they are not doing that. They're just like going throughout their day. They're 5 minutes working on this and 5 minutes working on that, and but nothing's getting complete because they're all over the place.
Let's move over to your work in philanthropy and your community impact. What does philanthropy mean to you beyond financial giving?
Um, a helping hand. So we all need a helping hand at some point in life. Um, we all need someone to help us get to that next phase. And that's what philanthropy means to me. I think, really you have to give back in some capacity. It only makes sense because that's how we are going to grow, and that's how, if we help each other, each one teach one, that is how we all are going to be able to grow and get to that next phase.
How did you first get involved in community work?
So I would say definitely back when, like I said, we started, us as a family started going to the National Kidney Cancer, the Kidney Walk, and that kind of piqued my interest. And then I started serving on the board and helping, well, in the Columbus, Ohio area, and helping with the strategizing in regards to teams, and how that was laid out. So I was kind of, while I was participating in the walk, a friend of mine was connected to the person that was the organizer, and that's how I she started participating, and then she asked if I would be interested, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So that's what led me into a philanthropist role.
So, what motivates you to serve on a nonprofit board?
So actually the Fix Your Crown initiative. The CEO is actually a friend of mine that I went to high school with. And while, we didn't stay in touch, we've always remained, connected via social media. And I think just seeing her and her journey, and what she's trying to do in the community, bringing mothers and daughters closer. Her first focus is really to pour into the mothers and daughters in the family, but then broaden the reach with the entire family. So because I'm a mother of two daughters, that resonated with me, and I know the challenge with raising daughters at times. And so I wanted to be a part of that because, especially as my daughters are adults now, now I'm having conversations with them from a, adult lens. And my oldest daughter actually has daughters. So being able to, have conversations with her that hopefully she can, learn from maybe my mistakes, or, even her mistakes as a child, and being able to pass that on, to her children. So I think, I loved what she was doing in regards to, really pouring into the mothers and the daughters, and then broadening the rising to the whole family. That resonated for me because it's personal for me, and I definitely wanted to be a part of that. While my daughters are adults now, I'm still they're teaching me and I'm teaching them. It's a never ending process. And if we can, collectively come together as a community and, have these conversations and be able to help people grow, learn and grow, then I think I felt like that's what I needed to happen. So I wanted to be a part of that.
So, what's a community moment that touched you deeply?
A community moment that touched me deeply. Um, I would have to say, I would have to say, I think so. We had a for my dad. We have a foundation for my father, the Frank Phoenix Foundation, and we had a fishing day. My dad liked to fish, and so just to see the amount of people that came out, an organization that he was involved with. Unfortunately, they couldn't attend, but they definitely, reached out to show their support of my dad, even though my dad has been deceased for, at that time over a decade. They still, wanted to pay, homage to him and his journey. So I think for me that really, obviously that was near and dear to my heart because that's my father. But also just to see people come together and really try to build on this cause.
So, how do you identify the needs of a community before stepping in to help?
So, well, I would have to say just with, I know with the Frank Phoenix Foundation, so my dad was a recovering alcoholic. I believe he was clean about between 15 and 20 years prior to him passing. And for me, I honestly, just being transparent, did not know how involved my dad was in the community until, I always knew that he was still, involved. He would still go to his meetings and things like that. But I didn't know how much of an impact he made in that community until, his repast, the day of his funeral. And, a few people stood up and told how he impacted their lives. So it only made sense for me to be able to carry on my dad's legacy. But I also know that, men are needed in the household. I'm a product of that. And, if my dad would have not been in the household, then there wouldn't absolutely be no Shannon Phoenix at all. So Bernice and Frank Phoenix made Shannon Phoenix. So that is a fact for sure. So with that being said, I definitely think that, from that lens, what my dad stood for in that community and really helping men along in that process, I think it was inevitable. So what we did was we reached out and partnered with the facility where my dad, would go and have his he on his journey to sobriety, and then also reaching back and pouring into those guys that were still there. It only made sense for us to, create this foundation and be able to provide, scholarships and things of that nature for those that are still struggling and trying to get through the process of sobriety. So actually, we are more so a strategic partner for those organizations. So we don't necessarily have to, look at all of the analytics within the community, but we can lean on those organizations and look at their analytics and be able to provide support from ours where we sit.
So, let's talk a little bit about the Frank Phoenix Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
For those who don't know, what is the mission of the Frank Phoenix Foundation?
The mission is to be a support to men within the community that suffer in the AA and NA communities, the Alcoholic Anonymous and also Narcotic Anonymous communities. Being able to provide them the necessary support needed to get them into programs that will help them um, become sober. And I apologize, help them become sober on that journey, and then also help them with your day-to-day needs on that journey. A lot of those individuals experience hardships in regards to maybe they lost housing during that time, or maybe they lost their driver's license, or things that may be deemed as even the smaller things, quote unquote, like your driver's license, or not having maybe access to the public transportation. Maybe they need bus tokens or things of that nature to get them, or toiletries, things of that nature. Some of those things may seem small, but they're really big for those individuals that are going through that process. They could have lost everything. So being able to provide that support for the Frank Phoenix Foundation, and to provide scholarships and be able to give and help them in some of those challenges, and jump over those hurdles, has definitely been a blessing.
So, what inspired your involvement with the foundation?
So I am my family and myself. We created the foundation. So I am deemed as the philanthropist advisor. So really to have the vision of my father, along with my family. We want to make sure that we are, carrying out his vision. And while, like I said, we didn't learn that he was so involved until after he passed, we definitely want to make sure that we finish what he started. So that, that's inevitable. We want to make sure that we carry out his legacy in regards to being a shoulder to lean on in that community.
So, what impact does the foundation have on families and youth?
Obviously, with especially, and I do want to say we do have resources also for, it's not just men, but we, obviously we want to make sure that we provide support to men in the household, because we want to make sure that they have what it needs to lead their family. So but we do also have resources for those that that may have a single parent, or just a mother, or a single parent household. We have resources for those as well. But being able to provide that support definitely will allow for the male to be able to give back to his family, and be there and step into his role in a full capacity, with empowering him with the necessities that he needs, from a personal standpoint. You sometimes in life you have to pour into yourself before you can help anyone else. So that's what we're trying to do, is really help them, empower them, so that they can go back and take their position in their household.
So, what's a moment within the foundation's work that moved you personally?
I would have to say just being able to give the scholarships, to help different organizations, because again, it's really being able to see my dad's legacy, live on, and helping him in that, helping others in that process. I can remember back when my dad, his driver's license was suspended, and he got his driver's license through help of the organization. And then he became a public transportation, well, it was a transit coach. Let me make sure I say that correctly, because he did not like the term bus driver. So a transit coach. So that afforded him to do that for many years. But again, just looking back, my dad wasn't always who he needed to be within our household because he struggled with alcoholism. So the fact that we are able to, take what we experience and be able to pour it into this foundation and give back to families, so that they can be a stronger unit, then I think that's, with that being said, I think we've done a pretty well in regards to living out his legacy.
So, how does the foundation honor the legacy of Frank Phoenix?
Absolutely, by doing what he would have done. I think my dad was. I shared this with you prior to this interview. But at my dad's repast, there were two gentlemen. My dad stood about 6 foot. But there were two gentlemen that were his friends that got up on the mic and wanted to share their thoughts in regards to my dad. And I want to say that both men were probably about maybe 6'2", and maybe like the other one was pretty tall, maybe about 6'4" or 6'5". But the one stood out for me. The one that was like about 6'5". He got up to the microphone and he said that Frank was like a tower to me.
Oh, wow. Yo.
So that resonated because while he was obviously much taller and bigger than my dad was a tower to him, because the fact that my dad always was a person that walked with confidence, and even in his challenges, he was always very confident in himself. So I think when he became sober, it allowed for him to really walk in that confidence to be able to pour into other people. So when he said Frank was a tower, what I equate that to was he was a fixed structure that was unmovable, and that stood above other structures. But he was there for others to lean on. And so that is what we want to embody here in the Frank Phoenix Foundation. We want to make sure that we're that fixed structure. When people need support and they need someone to lean on, then we are there to help them out and continue to be the tower in the community.
I've got 4 comments here in the chat for you, and if you want to respond to these, you can. Here is one that's on the screen there. She gave you 100s. And we have this one here where you got some hearts.
That's my sister.
Okay. And we have this one here. Says, Shannon, you're doing great work.
Thank you, Corey. That's my accountability partner.
Okay. And this last one here is from your brother here. It says facts.
Thank you. Shout out to my brother. That's my big brother. He's always there for me to lean on. And shout out to my other brother. They are young towers in my life.
So let's we discussed that we do Black History 365. And I ask you, who were the most influential people or persons in your life and career? You told me Harriet Tubman, your grandmother, and your mother. So let's talk about Harriet Tubman first. What about her courage speaks to you the most?
And I want to say, because it's probably cliche, and I'm sure that there is definitely a lot of different, individuals that I could have named. But for me, she embodied for me, I'm solution driven. So I think that she absolutely was solution driven, to say, hey, well, we may not go this way, but we're going to go another way to get to where we need to go. So that is absolutely me, from a personal perspective, and then also from a business perspective.
So, how does Harriet Tubman's leadership influence the way you lead today?
So I would have to say I'm always looking for ways to get to the root of the problem first and foremost, but then also find a solution. Okay, now we understand, how we got here, but let's try to find a solution to move us forward. And let's find, different routes to get us there. Let's have a plan A, B, and C. So I think that's absolutely what I try to do within business.
So, what lessons from Harriet Tubman do you apply in your own business and community work?
I would have to say, definitely not. I'm not giving up. I'm gonna find another route. And even from a personal perspective, I think I'm a pretty positive individual. With life, it throws you curveballs, and you sometimes, it's like I said, it's some highs and lows, but I'm never a person that's gonna lay down and just sit there and cry. I'm gonna keep moving forward, regardless of if it hurts, or if it's, a challenge. I'm gonna push through. So I think I embody that from a personal perspective, and then also with business. I with a part of the reason why I do have strategic partnerships is because I may not have all of the answers, but I'm going to get you to a person. I'm going to connect you with a person or a business that can help you find that solution. So I think that comes along with having, those different routes, being able to take those different routes to get you to the destination.
So, tell us about your grandmother, Dolly. What made her so influential in your life?
Um, so she, okay, so I don't want to start crying, okay? So she, Dolly Mobley. So I didn't have any sisters, obviously, and she, when my mom and dad were working, and then my brothers were like probably, doing like after school programs or things of that nature, then somebody had to watch Shannon. So she got stuck with the job of watching watching this little girl that talked her head off. So I think it was the fact that she poured into me. Like, she told me stories about her life, and she played. When I think about my grandmother, I was 10 years old and she was 70, and I didn't realize that she was that, much older at the time, because I was taking her up. We lived in an area that had like a mountain next to the apartment complex, and we would, I think I had a school project where I had to go and pick some rocks or find, like it was, uh, they were trying to teach us about quartz and, the different rocks. And so me and my grandmother actually climbed this mountain. And just looking back at 70 years old, so I'm 46 and I'm a grandmother, and these little kids be running circles around me. But the fact that at 70 years old that she had the strength, I mean, she pushed through to get me to get me what I needed. So, and she was always, playing with me, pouring into me, with her stories, and just the Southern cooking. My grandmother was from Griffin, Georgia. So, she brought the Southern cooking to Cincinnati, Ohio, clearly. So after school, I would always have good home cooked meals. So it was just that I think she just took the time with me. And she really poured in me. She nurtured me. She cultivated me. So, yeah.
That's a strong lady.
She was, sure. Yep.
Um, what's a lesson from your grandmother that you still hear in your spirit?
Um, it's a whole bunch of them. So she would say, I don't even know what this means, but I still don't. I have my own. I have my own interpretation. So she would always say, if they never seen it before, throw a hat at it. I have no idea what that means. but
Oh, okay. That's deep south right now.
but for me, my interpretation is that it's kind of more so like, okay, so people are going to have their own opinion of what you do, but don't worry about them. Stay focused on your goal. So that's my interpretation of it.
So how did your grandmother shape your understanding of strength and resilience?
Because she raised 4 children on her own. Her husband passed when my aunt was 5 years old from, I believe, throat cancer. And she raised, 2 boys and 2 girls on her own. So that's, and then she lost her mother at a young age, which is why part of the reason why she came to Cincinnati, Ohio to live with her sister. So I don't feel as though she, really got all of the nurturing and cultivating that she needed as a child, just because, her mother and her father passed at such young, age, such a young age. But the fact that she was able to turn that around and pour into her kids and her grandkids, she absolutely stood for strength.
Your mother is also one of your greatest influences.
Yeah.
What did she teach you about purpose?
I would say she. So my mother is obviously an extension of my grandmother. Dolly Mobley was her mother. So she. I think my mother, she showed a lot of resilience in regards to I recall, one time we were on and Mom, I don't know if you're listening, but I'm gonna share this story because they need to know. um I think, we were on public assistance, and trying to balance the household. We're at a time where, the my parents weren't making a lot of money, but and then, the male couldn't be in the household. So my mom was, I mean, if they wanted government assistance, then you couldn't have the man in the household. Which is a way to divide the family, but that's another conversation. However, I think my mom said, well, forget the system. I'm gonna go and work 2 and 3 jobs, and me and your dad go have to work these jobs to make sure that we move this family forward. So, I think my mom absolutely um, displayed resilience from that standpoint. Well, I once heard, actually, at my mother's best friend's funeral, her son got up there and said that while his father was the head, my mother was the neck. My mother absolutely was the neck in our household. My dad was the head, but my mother made sure that he had a steady structure so his head could be on straight. So I definitely commend my mother from that aspect. She always had while my dad was struggling with alcoholism, she always had the steady mind to be able to lead her kids forward, as well as stand by her husband.
So, what's something your mother said that you still live by?
You got to roll with the punches. she That's one of her sayings. You got to roll with the. She got a lot of sayings. She got it's. I wish my daughter was on here because she know all of them. But you got to roll with the punches, I would say, is number one. And that means, it's going to be some highs and lows in life, but you got to keep pushing forward. So that definitely resonates with me, and that's one that I'll always keep in my memory bank.
So, how do these three women, Harriet, your grandmother, and your mother, connect in your story?
I think I embody all three of them. I would have to say, like I said, with Harriet, obviously the solution driven individual, and then with my granny, just I think, well, now everything that she poured into me, I've worked hard to try to pour into my children, and then now that I'm a grandmother, I'm resorting back and just thinking through, some of those times where she was, stood beside me, and I'm working to be that for my grandchildren. So being that strong structure in their life, and then with my mother, just making sure that I'm moving forward. You know, it's like just make sure that you're always moving forward. And I can't quote it. This is the Martin Luther King. That's my favorite, one of my favorite quotes, when it says, if you can't walk, then crawl. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. And that's what my mother represents for me. So I'm always gonna be moving forward regardless of what life throws my way.
So, how do you honor their legacy through your work?
I think with my attempt to be, a good person, making sure that I'm holding up the morals and values that they taught me. Definitely, making sure that I'm treating people how I want to be treated.
Oh, so I got quite a few chats here for you. There's one here on the screen. Beyond proud of all you continue to do, Mr. Frank is proud.
Thank you, sister.
And we have this one here. Peace and blessings here listening.
Thank you.
And she also says at DP Rocka, there's all of the emojis, the music, the peace sign, the prayers, the muscle.
Okay. So my brother made a friend in the chat. It looks like he's always making friends though. He's definitely.
Let's say, Cam, thank you so much for pulling up.
Okay. Yeah, that must be somebody that he knows. Thank you, Cam.
And so here's another one here. There's again, this is at Convos with Cam.
Okay.
This thing at DP Rocka. This one is from Martina. She's one of those tears, or is she laughing?
She's laughing. So Martina, my brother, that's Paco on the line. So Paco, this is my sister. So you'll meet her soon for sure.
There's DP again with Facts 100. And here is very insightful advice and life lessons. That's from
Thank
Corey.
you. Thank you.
And this last one is you are wealthy and worthy.
That is my bow. Thank you. I appreciate you.
So I want to ask you about your vision, purpose, and future. What does success look like for you at this stage of your life?
What does success look like for me? Honestly, success is legacy for me. There is really not a lot that I want, but I need to fulfill my legacy. I need to be able to pass along the things that were instilled into me, so that when I leave this earth, my family and then also my community can carry on what my path in life. what I left.
What's a dream you haven't shared publicly yet?
What's a dream I haven't shared publicly? I want to fly a plane. Actually,
Oh wow,
I know
really?
that's it. I know. I definitely have not shared that, but I would love to fly a plane. I know
So
that's so random.
what's next for you as an entrepreneur and community leader?
What's next? I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I know that I am going to continue to move forward in all spaces. So I do have some projects in the making that I'm looking forward to. I feel like it's going to be life changing for a lot of people. But I'm really just working in the backgrounds right now to really see how that looks. But I know that whatever I do is going to impact a lot of people, a lot of generations. And so when I leave here, they will remember my name. They will remember Shannon Phoenix. They will remember Frank Phoenix, and they will know that Dolly Mobley was here.
What impact do you hope to leave on the people you serve?
Um, just be good to each other. Um, I would probably say, what is it? Goodness, what was I can't think of his name. The congressman, John, I think it was John. I can't remember his last name, but he would always say, or is it bad trouble or good trouble or something?
That's John Lewis.
John Lewis. Okay. I was drawing a blank. So absolutely, I think that is, one of the things I want to live by. I want to make sure that if I'm gonna get in trouble, it's going to be good trouble. So it's going to be something that impacts generations to come.
Final question for you. When people speak your name years from now, what do you hope they say?
I would hope that they say that I am exactly what my name represents. So, Phoenix is, obviously the Phoenix bird. It burns itself up and it comes back for more. That's absolutely life. Like I said, it's highs and lows. It's twists and turns. It's some turbulences, but you have to keep going and coming back for more. So when they tell my story, I hope that they tell, yes, she has some highs, she has some lows, but she never gave up. One of my favorite quotes is a Chinese proverb, fall down 7, stand up 8. So I always push forward.
So, in closing, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement you'd like to leave for our audience? Tell them how to connect with you via your social media, your website, some of your services. What are those things that you like for people to know?
Absolutely. So you can actually link with me at iamshannonphoenix.com. iamshannonphoenix.com. I'll make sure that can I put it in the chat?
You should be able to.
Okay. Okay. And then all of my contact information is there. There's I am on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I am also on LinkedIn and Alignable. I'm an ambassador on Alignable for several different locations, Columbus, Ohio. I'm also the interim ambassador for Kansas City, Tampa, and then also Kenton County, Delaware. So I would have to say, if I had to leave something for the people viewing today, it would be do good work. That's it, and that's all.
Okay, well, before I close, I'm going to have a closing monologue that I'm going to do in just a second. Do you have a couple of minutes after I close the show
Absolutely.
that you can stay?
Yes.
So I want to thank you all that's tuned into the show tonight. And for those of you, especially that have been watching on our YouTube channel, if you have not subscribed and enabled all notifications, I would definitely appreciate your support if you could do so, please. So you can get the shows live. You can also have the opportunity to go back and listen to each and every broadcast that we have done and learn and get the wisdom of all of our community workers that are doing work to continue to build our communities. So, in closing, Shannon, your journey is a reminder that leadership is not just about what we build, it's about who we lift. You've shown us that entrepreneurship can be rooted in purpose, that community work can be fueled by love, and that legacy is something we honor through action. Your story reflects the strength of your grandmother Dolly, the wisdom of your mother, and the courage of Harriet Tubman, three powerful women whose spirit lives through your work. You're carrying their light forward, and tonight you shared that light with all of us. Thank you for your heart, your leadership, and your commitment to helping others rise. This is American Black and White. I'm your host, Charles King, and this has been a conversation filled with purpose, passion, and power. Good night, everyone. We will see you all tomorrow evening at the same time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You all have a great